the 3 different ways to dye your wig. So I'm going to show you how to take this and make it this. As always, make sure you wear protective gear on your hands, like gloves, or you will have stained hands. So the first way is with Rit Synthetic Dye More. You're getting into a bucket, gloves, and whatever color you want to make your wig in the dye. Like I said, this is Rit Dye More product. This is very important because this is made for synthetic. You do not need 2 colors unless you're doing like me and you're mixing them to get the color that you want. I also have wig wefts left over from my wig to test out my color, stirring stick, and a picture of the wig color I'm trying to get. If you don't have extra wefts, you'll just have to use the ends of your wig to test out the color. So I added about 2 kettles full of boiling water. Of course, you know, you'll have to just use your own discretion about how much water you'll need. You shouldn't need too much more than that. I'm doing a pretty long wig, which is like 100 centimeters. So get your gloves on. And since I'm mixing 2 colors, I'm going to very slowly add each color at a time until I'm happy with my ratio and the color it makes. If you're not using 2 colors to mix, you can probably just dump the whole bottle in, unless you're trying to save some of the dye, and then maybe just try like half a bottle. But for argument's sake, let's say that you're going to be making your own color like me. So basically, I'm just going to try and keep it at a 1-for-1 ratio. So I added 2 cups of red, 2 cups of purple now. Let's see what color I'm going to get. This is when you use your stir stick to mix in the color. The main thing to keep in mind when dyeing your wig is it's always going to look darker when it's wet. Because once you rinse it out, you're going to kind of lose that darkness and it's going to be lighter. So I'm putting my weft in. If you don't have wefts, you'll just test the very ends of your wig. And obviously I would let my wig sit in longer than I'm putting this weft in. I'm just trying to see how the color looks in it. And I'm not too happy with that, so I'm actually going to add more dye in. The more dye in, the darker and richer your color will be. So I'm adding 4 caps of purple and 4 caps of red. And pretty much I'm just going to repeat the process until I get the color that I like. Now it's better to start out slow like this instead of just dumping the whole bottle in and then being like, that's too dark. And finally add a color that I enjoy. Or that I like. So now I've put my whole wig in and I'm making sure to stir it in to make sure that it's fully covered and that it's got really nice coverage all over it. I'm going to end up leaving this wig for about 2 hours, and then the first 30 minutes I come back and stir it every so often. Once you're done, we're going to rinse it out with cold water. Now, I'm using a black sink. You should probably use something like white so you can see that the dye's all rinsed out. I use my mane and tail to wash out the dye and such. It's really the best product in my opinion. You can get the shampoo and conditioner, but I just use the conditioner. Also need the mane and tail detangler spray for after your wig is dyed to kind of spray it through and slowly brush out all the tangles and knots that your wig has gotten. So my pro for and cons for this is that you can definitely dye very long wigs with a lot less money spent, but the color's not very vibrant in my opinion. Way 2, and this is my favorite way, using acrylic ink. So again, you'll need your gloves, 70% isopropyl alcohol, a spray bottle, the clearer the better so you can see the ink in it, and your acrylic ink. Since I'm doing a very large wig, I'm going with 4 bottles. And I use the Bombay India Ink brand because it's the only brand I can get locally, and I buy it at Hobby Lobby. So, before I jump into how to do this, let's talk about how much ink you need for your wig. So for a bob wig to a short wig, you need about 1 thing of ink. For a medium-sized wig like this, 2. She's kind of thick though, you might want to go to a 1/3. And for a large wig, like what I'm doing at 100 centimeters, 4 to maybe even 5 bottles. So it can get a little pricey. Alright, I'm going to put my gloves on. Grab my spray bottle. Opened it up. And I'm literally just going to dump all of this ink in first. Get a better view for you guys. Now, one thing I'll say about the ink that the Rit dye has over the ink is it's much easier to make a color with Rit dye than it is with ink, because ink is so powerful that if you try and mix that darker one in with a lighter one, it's just going to overpower the lighter one. So now take your alcohol and pour as much in as you need. Basically, the alcohol is just kind of thinning out the ink so that there's more of it to use, but also if you want a lighter color than what your ink is, this is the best way to do it. You can add more alcohol to lighten your ink color. It's really just kind of a user's choice. And then I'm going to shake it up and get ready to go outside. Okay, so I'm outside. As you can see, it's windy where I live and I hate that, so if you're doing this, don't be downwind. And I just start from the top, making sure that I pick up each piece and get into where the roots are, the wig cap, so that it really gets through and soaks through. It is going to be more time consuming than your Rit dye method, but in my opinion, I find the colors are more vibrant and it's just worth it. It's actually my favorite way to dye a wig. Yeah, it's going to stink a little, but and don't, use your hands and fingers to really rub that ink in if you can. So obviously I'm going to dye the whole wig, but I had to go somewhere else because it was just too windy. So I left her for about 3 hours to dry, and as you can see, when the acrylic ink dries your wig, it's going to be like this weird crunchy color, crunchy texture. And literally rinse and repeat. So my pros and cons for using acrylic ink. Cons: it can be messy and you need to do it outside when spraying it on your wig. Pros though, I definitely think the color comes out much more vibrant than Rit dye. Cons: it takes a lot more money. Alright, now we're on to way 3, which is using the Sharpie method. So again, gloves, a container you don't care about, a Sharpie, isopropyl alcohol, a knife, and pliers. Boop, there they are. So I don't really like using this method because I find it very hard to seal Sharpie, and I've heard a lot of horror stories. I would never do this with a dark colored Sharpie at all. Like, I hear that blues and purples are really bad. but I thought I should go over it anyway. I am not going to show you how to do it on a wig because I didn't have a wig to dye. But basically, the first step is to get your pliers and somehow wiggle out that ink. It takes a lot of work, and you're just going to have to pretty much press and twist. And you'll finally get it out. I see people get out the little tab bit all the time, but I just never can do it. So now I'm going to take my knife and very carefully slit a hole into that ink. So, got it in your container. I actually decide that I want to slit the hole on both sides because I think the ink will come out better that way. And I just put enough isopropyl alcohol to cover it up and then some. You can kind of see. Gonna put a lid on it and shake it. One thing that's kind of cool about the Sharpie method though is you can like paint it on or spray it on. I think the painting on method will be much better to use for your Sharpie just because it will be more controlled. So I hope you liked this tutorial and found it helpful in some way, and I would love to see your wig dyeing adventures. So don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below if you have any questions. Bye bye!